People say that there are different stages to grief, from numbness, disbelief and denial, through anger, shock and guilt, to intense sadness and acceptance. Of course, different people deal with grief in different ways, and no one has to respond in all these ways or experience them in any particular set order. We live in a society where aging, sickness and even simple bad luck are somewhat taboo. Just when the grieving client may need support, understanding and listening ears, they may find people avoiding them out of embarrassment and awkwardness. Grieving the death of a loved one is, of course, entirely natural and not pathological in any way. It should only become a concern if it doesn't start to diminish after some months, and the grief-stricken person starts to believe that they cannot possibly have any meaningful existence without their deceased loved one. If they've started misusing their imagination to project a meaningless future for themselves, because there can be no meaning or fulfillment without the loved one, then it may well be time for professional help. There are many ways of comforting and supporting a grieving person, and of course this succour is best provided by relatives and friends. But as therapists, we may need to help grieving clients eventually learn how to stop grief from continually burdening their lives. People often feel awkward about discussing a deceased person with someone who is bereaved and won't even mention their name. This is hard for the one who is grieving, as they often need and want to talk about their lost partner, friend or relative. If you are reasonably sure it won't unnecessarily upset your client, don't be afraid to ask about the dead person and encourage the client to talk about them.
What was he like as a person?
He was unique, certainly made an impression on everyone he met. That's not to say everyone liked him. He could be outspoken and, I suppose to be honest, a bit difficult at times. But he could also be the best friend you could ever have. If he really cared about something, he didn't care what people thought, and I admired him for that. He saw things in a very creative way. And, at times he could be moody, a bit unpredictable, but he was a good friend. He was great company, and I just really miss that. I really miss being around him.
Let your client talk about past times and describe what the person they've lost was like, their foibles, their likes and dislikes, even their weaknesses, if the subject comes up. Ask them how this person would have wanted them to be living now, and even what advice or comfort this person may give right now. This may be the first time they've properly been able to pay tribute in words and have it accepted.
What do you think he'd say to you now about the pain that you've been suffering since he went? What would he say about that to you, do you think?
I think he'd tell me that life is for living, that there's plenty of other people out there that I can connect to, that I could be friends with. He'd tell me not to forget him, but he'd tell me to live my life.
Letting your client just talk about their deceased loved one may be therapeutic in itself, especially if they haven't really done much of that with friends or relatives. Of course, they might not want or need to do this, but bear in mind it may be a refreshing starting point for them in their grief counselling. And if you can encourage them to discuss the person calmly, as well as doing any natural emoting they need to do, then this too may really help. Be really curious about the person, remember what they tell you, and refer back to it so that they feel understood.